And you're good to go. You have to unmute.
Unmute. Here we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Kuf Chaf Beis. We left off at the bottom of Kuf Chaf Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom. So Abba Bar Masa Dahavi Abba Bar Menume. So Abba Bar Masa was also known as Abba Bar Menume. Havi Maski Bey the Bey Reish Galusa. I guess he had some business dealings with the Reish Galusa, and he owed some money. So Havi Maski Bey Reish Galusa Zuze. So what happened? So he owed the money. Asu Kamet Sarle, and they were basically bothering him, trying to get him to go ahead and pay. And Havisha de Ruka, and there was, I guess, some sort of spit on the ground. And Amarlu, he said to the Reish Galusa, Aisu Mani Schifule. So the Reish Galusa said, go ahead and get a kli, something to cover up the spit, because we learned earlier that in terms of there's spit on the ground, that one should not go ahead and cover it up. Perhaps he's smoothing the ground and filling up holes, which would be a problem for baina, or I guess filling the holes in the field. So Amarlu, or if it is actually in the house, if it was in the field, it perhaps would be planting. So Amarlu, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go ahead and do it, because why? Because I'm Rabbi Yehuda Reiko Darsh Lifitama. As we just said earlier, this we got on the topic that if there's spit on the ground, you don't have to walk differently to avoid the spit. You can step on the spit, and even though you might naturally be smoothing the ground, it doesn't make a difference. We brought that in because we said one is stepping; he can step on a snake or something that he's walking. He doesn't have to try and jump out of the way to avoid killing something which is dangerous. So to over here. With the spit, he said you don't have to, because Rabbi Yehuda Darshan did it, and Amarlehu, so he said the Reish Galusa, I didn't realize he must be a Talmid Chacham, and therefore leave him alone. Don't bother him for the money that he owes. And Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, speaking of which, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Pamutais shall base Rabbi Mutul Taltam b'Shabbos. The Pamutais, like the menorahs, the candelabras of Beis Rebbe, they were mutter to move on Shabbos, even though they were in pieces. They come in pieces. Nevertheless, one might be worried that they're taken apart or be built. Nevertheless, mutter to move on Shabbos. So Amar Le Rab Zera, is it the smaller ones in one hand or the bigger ones? Perhaps the bigger ones are more usher, is even the smaller ones. So Tal page Amar Klaisan shall base Avicha. No, like that of your father's house, the small ones. Right, but the small ones, those were mutter. But however, the larger ones, right, since the larger ones were not basically, supposed to be moved around, if they would come apart, one would go ahead and rebuild it, and perhaps that would be a malacha of rebuilding it, to finish up, to do the final blow on it to make a big one. Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, Amar Rav Chanina, Karainas shall Beis Rebbe also mutter l'haltam b'Shabbos. The wagons of Beis Rebbe are also mutter to move on Shabbos. Not a problem of muksa. So Amar Rab Zera benitlam be'adam echad b'shnei b'nei adam. Is it ones that were the smaller ones that can be moved by one person, or perhaps even the ones that were moved that needed 2 people? So Amar Klaisan shall beis avicha. Like the ones in your father's house, those the smaller ones, those are considered not to be a big, large structures, and therefore they're movable objects, and therefore those are not muksa on Shabbos. And finally, the Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana hitir lehem Rabbi Chanina lebeis Rebbe lishtay siyayim b'karan shal nachri b'chayis mechad. So he permitted for those of the Beis Rebbe to drink wine that they were brought in wagons of a nachri, of a guy, right, with only one seal. It was not double sealed, only one seal. However, so why did he permit it? You don't know if he held like Rabbi Eliezer, who held that all you need is one seal, and one seal is sufficient, that if something is sealed up, then they didn't touch it, and therefore, since they didn't touch it, it'll be mutter, right, because it's still sealed. The seal is still on it. They know that no one touched it. Or really maybe normally you need 2 seals, or a double seal. But the reason, or double wrapped, right? But the reason why here's only one is because of the fear of the Beis Rebbe, the house of the Nasi. Since they were scared of the house of the Nasi, therefore they wouldn't touch the wine, and therefore even one seal would be okay. Fine. Mishnah. So now Mishnah says, if a guy goes ahead and he lights a candle for himself on Shabbos, Yisrael, a Jew is allowed to go ahead and use that light, even though it was turned on, it was lit on Shabbos, he can use it. However, if the guy saw a Jew was sitting in the dark and he turned on, or he started a fire for the sake of the Jewish person, then it's usher. So that was one case. Now comes a similar case. if a person, let's say he drew water from a well, which is all the way at the bottom of the Shus, it's all deep down in a well, which is in a Rishus Yachid because it's below 10, and he brings it all the way up into the Rishus Rabbim, and the guy goes ahead and he brings a lot of water up and feeds some of his animals, leftover water there. So if it was for the guy just for his animal, so the Jew can go ahead and use the leftover water. However, but if he sees the Jew is there and he draws the water for the Jew, then usher. Then he cannot go ahead and do it. Let's say there was a boat and the Nachri went ahead and he made a ramp to go ahead and get off the boat. So Yared Acharav Yisrael. Then a Jew is allowed to go ahead and go down there because it was for the sake of the guy. However, Yisrael. But if he did it, he built this ramp for the sake of for the Jew, right? Then it would be Aser. And Ma'aser Rabban Gamliel was the Canaan. Shahayu by Misfina. One time there's a Ma'aser Rabban Gamliel. There's a Canaan where they were on the boat. And one time the guy, in that case, he made a ramp to go down. They went off the boat. It was within the Tchum of the area when Shabbos started. They were within 2,000 amos of the land, so they were permitted for them to get off the boat. However, they used this ramp that was made. It was built for the, they used their ramp in that case. So we have to see why they were permitted to use the ramp. So let's see. First, the Gemara says, you need all three cases. We had the case of the light, we had the case of the water, and we had the case of the ramp. So why three? If the guy did it for himself, it's mutter to use afterwards. But if the guy did it for the Jew, then it would be usher. So if it was just for the candle, because the same fire, the same light can be used for one person or many people. So therefore, there's no reason that any extra of his work was for a Jew, because since the same light that one person reads from, and 100 people can stand around and use the same light, you don't use up the light. However, Lamayim leagues are, but maybe because water, maybe because he actually had to draw more water, and that water which was drawn, the leftover water was done by a Jew, maybe that's a reason. So maybe Dilmas, so maybe that'll be Aser. And perhaps he would come to go ahead and maybe draw that water for Yisrael, and that would be all. Additionally, that would be Aser. And the Kevis Lami, why do you have the case of the ramp, right? So Lamali, so the Maisa of the Rabban Gamliel is the Kedem Kamash Malani. Want to teach the Maisa of the Rabban Gamliel? It was a lead into the Maisa of Rabban Gamliel when they were on the boat, and then they used the ramp that was really built for the guy that the Rabban Gamliel went on afterwards. But really, it was not a chiddush because a ramp used by one person is the same ramp that 100 people can go ahead and use afterwards. So Tanur Rabbanan, Nachi Shalikid Asavim Michael Acharav Yisrael. If Nachi went ahead and basically it gathered grass, basically detached and gathered grass from the ground to feed his animals, then Yisrael, Acharav Yisrael, then Yisrael can go ahead and feed it afterwards. Michael Acharav Yisrael. But if the guy went ahead and gathered the grass to feed the animal of the Jew, then it'll be Aser. Similarly, Mile Mai Mashkaisa Behemto. If a guy went to go ahead and draw water for his own animal, then Mashka Chav Yisrael, then a Jew can go ahead and use that water afterwards for his own animals. However, even Bishvel Yisrael. But if the guy went ahead and drew the water for the sake of the Jew, then it'll be Aser. But Medvar Murim, what we talk about, Shein Makira, only when the guy doesn't recognize the Jew. He didn't know the Jew, wasn't friends with him. About Makiro, but if he did recognize him, can't even use a leftover, because we'll say then it's Aser, because we'll say that perhaps he knew that the guy was there and he did more for the purpose of the Jew for him to use it on Shabbos. Aini, is this true? Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rebbe, Chanina. Mami Adam behemto al gabi yosavim b'Shabbos, aval loy al gabi muksa b'Shabbos. Now, a person is allowed to go ahead and have his animals graze in the field. His animals graze in the field, and even though they're pulling out grass, right, on Shabbos, which is a doraisa, nevertheless, the animals are allowed to feed off that. But they can't go ahead and use something which is muksa. Let's say something was set aside not for Shabbos, and you want to go ahead and animals eat it on Shabbos. The animals can't eat that. Why? Because it's a gzeira, because the person might go ahead and touch the muksa to feed the animals, as opposed to a person won't go ahead and do a doraisa and tear out the grass attached to the ground. So therefore, we say only something which is muksa, right, is usher for the animals to eat. So how could you go ahead and say that the grass that the Nachri went ahead and gathered on Shabbos, which is muksa, you're allowed to go ahead and feed your animals that? Isn't a muksa. So Gemara answers, no, now we're talking about a case of where he just stood over the animals and he wasn't around to go ahead and basically feed the animals. Now, since he just stood there and he basically blocked the area where they were going to go. Therefore, the animals basically went on their own and ate, and it wasn't an issue, a case of where we have to be geyser and say perhaps the Jew might go ahead and touch the muksa to feed his animal. And Omar Amar B'medar Murim Shein Makiro. Only time about a case where he didn't recognize them. Of Makiro, but if the guy knew the Jew, then it would be also to go ahead and use the leftover. Haram Gamliel Makiro Havi. What about the case of Rabban Gamliel on the boat? He was on the same boat. Obviously, he knew the guy, right? They were together on the same boat, and the guy, built a bridge to go ahead after. Why was it mutter? Perhaps he built it with Rabban Gamliel and the Zakanim in mind. Maybe he wasn't around. In other words, he didn't see all the passengers of the boat. He didn't see Rabban Gamliel. And Rav Amar Afilu Teva B'fanav, even if he was in front of him, Ner Le'echad, Ner Lameh. You have a concept, like we said earlier, of Ner Le'echad, Ner Lameh, right? In other words, one candle which is used to read, many people can read from, right? So to over here, one bridge that a guy did for himself, he doesn't have to do anything extra in order for many people to use it after him. One goes at a time. So therefore, since the complete construction of the bridge was for the guy's own sake, he didn't do anything extra for his friend Rabban Gamliel. Says Rabban Gamliel, Hoya b'shalom b'fanav asu nared bo. Since it was made not in front of us, then we can go down. So you see clearly that he must have known the guy, but the only reason why it was mutter is because the guy, right? Because he wasn't in front of him, right? Since he was in front of him, maybe that was the reason. So right? It must have been that not like if he knew about him, then perhaps it would be usher. But since he didn't know about him, right? Since they weren't, that was the reason. Since right he did it with not in front of them, and he wasn't aware that anyone else was going to use it, therefore it's usher. But had he known that Rabban Gamliel was there, then it would have been forbidden, even if you say, all right, ner liyacha, ner lameya. So Tashma, come listen. Irshi Yisrael v'Nachrim darim b'seicha. If you have a city that are mostly that's Jews and Nachrim are living in it, v'haisa merchatz, and if you have a merchatz there, you have a bathhouse that people use. They heat up the bathhouse and they use it hamatzos b'Shabbos, and they use the bathhouse on Shabbos. The guy use it on Shabbos. If they're mostly Nachrim, then mutter l'irchatz ba miyad, that you can go ahead and use it right after Shabbos. You can't use it on Shabbos, it's a gzeira, but you can use it immediately after Shabbos, even though the bathhouse was heated up, right, on Shabbos, since we say it was for the majority of the Nachrim, therefore it's mutter to use it immediately after Shabbos. However, in Rav Yisrael, if it's the majority of Jews, then we say Yamtim Kadesh Yichamu Chamen. So we say no, that you have to wait no more of the time to heat it up. So if it takes normally 20 minutes to go ahead and heat up the bathhouse, you have to wait at least 20 minutes after Shabbos until you can go ahead and use it. Why is that? Because you see that it was done for the Israel. So over there, why do we say if it was done for the Goyim, we're still using it on Shabbos? Why do we say that the Jews can't use it right immediately after Shabbos? Why do they have to wait? So my answer is no, Hassam. Right? They when they heat it up, they heat up for the majority. Since the majority of the people of the town were Jewish, therefore it was done for the sake of the Jews, and therefore since it's done for the sake of the Jews, you cannot go ahead and get any hana, any pleasure from it on Shabbos, and not even immediately after Shabbos. So you have to wait, like we said, let's say it was 20 minutes to heat up, you have to wait at least the amount of time it takes to heat up in order for the Jews to use it after Shabbos. And Tashma, similar question. Ner hadalak b'masiba. So if you have a candle, basically that was lit for many people, right? For a group of people, so imrov nachrim. If it was mostly nachrim, then it's mutter. At least you can most people. If it was most people in there, we're going to use a light. We're goyim, then it's mutter to go ahead and use a light. Imrov Yisrael. If it was majority for the Yisrael and it was lit on Shabbos, then aser mechsa aser. Also, even if it was 50-50 aser. So why is it aser there? If it was done for the goyim, even though there's other Jews there, why should it be aser? So once again, hasanami ki madlik adaita. When it was lit, adaita deruba maliki. Right? It was lit for the majority. Since the majority of the Jews were Jews, therefore when it was lit on Shabbos, it was for the majority. Majority was Jews, and therefore it was a malacha that was done on Shabbos for the sake of a Jewish person or Jewish people, and therefore it would be forbidden to go get a hana. And Shmuel iklo lebei Avin Turin. So one time Shmuel was by the house of Avin Turin. And what happened? Also, Nachri Alik Shraga. So a guy came and he lit a lamp. Shmuel thought perhaps he's lighting the lamp for me. So Hadrinu Shmuel Leape. So Shmuel turned around, basically is not to get any hana from this light. However, Kavan the Chazad Aisi Shtar Vikakari, since Shmuel basically noticed that the guy pulled out a document and was using the light from the lamp to read his document, he realized, right? Right? It must be that he didn't light it for me. He lit it for himself because he wanted to go ahead and read that contract. So therefore he turned around and he benefited from the lamp because he saw it was lit for the guy. It was not lit for himself. So Hajar Allah Kol Kisve. Now the Katzins can go ahead and sing. You can pause it and then unpause it, right? Now, when, yeah, oh, here it is here. All right, we can't get away. Seven time. Seven time, seven All right, fine. Next mission. Mishnah Parak. Now we start the 17th parak of Masechah Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Kol HaKelim Nitlim B'Shabbos. Any kelim. Now this kelim referring to as like closets or trunks or stuff, basically portable closets, right? Closets, trunks, and the like. So these items, and their doors, iman, you have to move on Shabbos. Even though they come off, you're allowed to go ahead and use it on Shabbos. It's not similar to doors of a house. The doors of a house is considered to be binyan. You can't remove or if a door comes off of a house, that's considered to be muksa, and you can't reattach the door. That's part of a house. That's baina. But if it's part of these movable objects, right, such as these closets or a trunk, right? So all these things, that's mutter. Right? The house is not considered to be prepared. Now, that was halacha number one. Halacha number two. Noitel adam kainim. So over here, a person is allowed to go ahead and take a kurnas. You can go ahead and take a hammer to break nuts on Shabbos. And kardon, now we're going to have to discuss in the Gemara. We're going to have to see in the Gemara, are we talking about basically a hammer which is used for a nutcracker? Or are we talking about even a hammer that's basically used for construction? Right? What type of hammer are we talking about? We have to see what type of muksa it is. So the Gemara will discuss it. So first, he can take a hammer to go ahead and crack open nuts. Excuse me, right? Kornas is the vela, or you can go ahead and take a hatchet and use it to go ahead and basically cut a fig cake, a pressed fig cake. Magir ligras a gvina, or go ahead basically take a saw to cut cheese. Magrefa ligra you can go ahead and take a shovel to go ahead and basically shovel up figs, right? As a rochas, as a malgaze, love the cotton, or you can go ahead and use basically a pitchfork or something used to winnow when they throw it in the air for the blow for the field, which is normally used for malach of Shabbos for the wheat, but you can go ahead and use it to take food for a cotton, right? As a kush, as a karka lichbo, or to take a very sharp point, which is used by someone who weaves, to go ahead and basically, to stick, to get fruit with it, or mechat shalya as a kais, or you go ahead and use a needle and use it to remove a thorn, or meshal sakai leaf talk was it else, or even a small needle of that person who makes a sacks, right? Sack makers, right? I guess they're called, in order to go ahead and basically open a door to use it. So you're allowed to go ahead and take something which is normally used for something else, for a milacha, and use it for a mutter purpose on Shabbos. Okay, so you're allowed to use it for a mutter purpose on Shabbos, even though it's something which is normally used for other purposes. We have to see what kind it is. Is this something specifically which is made for the permitted use, or is it something that is actually made for the forbidden use, and you're still allowed to use it on Shabbos for L'tzarech Gufa? We'll have to see. So Zok the Gemara. First, we said Kol HaKelim. The first case where we said any door that detaches from one of those movable closets or carriages or trunks is mutter. Even if they are removed on Shabbos, and certainly if they're removed during the week. Now, if they're during the week, and even if they're removed on Shabbos, maybe you think they came off on Shabbos as muksa, but certainly even in that case, it's not muksa. Gemara says, what do you mean? Adarab, opposite. B'Shabbos muchanim al gabi avian, b'chol in muchanim al gavian. It's a bigger chiddush the other way, right? Because if they were attached when Shabbos started, so they were for the use of Shabbos, i.e., you're allowed to go ahead and use your trunk on Shabbos or your closet on Shabbos, right? So the doors were prepared for Shabbos because they were attached when Shabbos started, right? If it came off on Thursday, it's more of a reason to say it's muksa. So Gemara flips out. So Amar Bayi, this is to say, Kol HaKelim nitlim b'Shabbos v'doseni moed. All type of these utensils, right? These trunks and these closets can you move it and use them on Shabbos, and even their doors, if you don't say mine, and even though they came off during the week, even though they came off during the week, and maybe you think since they came off on Thursday, there's no shaykhs to Shabbos, they weren't attached to the closet at all when Shabbos started. Nevertheless, you're allowed to go ahead and reattach it on Shabbos. So we'll have to explain that case. So Tan Rabbanan, Delis Shel Sheda Shel Teva Shel Migdal Noitlin. So you have any of these cases, the doors, right, of this of a carriage or a trunk or a closet, all these types of doors, Noitlin, you can go ahead and remove it. You can take it off where they're at. Aval loy machzir. You can't go ahead and put it back on. The Gemara will ask the shalul tarnagolim, and if it's of a chicken coop, right? Loy noitlin v'loy machzir. You can't go ahead and remove it, and you can't put it back. So the Gemara says, wait. I understand why you can't remove or put back a door for a chicken coop. Since a chicken coop is attached to the ground, yesh binyan b'karka, yesh stir b'karka. There is such thing as binyan b'karka. Something that's attached to the ground. That's called baina. That's called building, and that's called construction or detaching. Right. So you can't construct or deconstruct, right? And those are both malachas when it's attached to the ground. So I understand why you can't attach the door or detach the door of a chicken coop. But the case of the ark and the trunk, right? Mike Savar, what do you hold? If you hold there is such thing as a malacha of building, even when it comes to movable objects, then if there is building, right, then there then there's so too, just like you can't put it on, so too you can't take it off. So why did you say you're allowed to take it off? The E ain't steer became. If you say no, there's no such thing as steer became, you're allowed to take it off. Then therefore, and binyan became, there should be no problem of reattaching and putting it back on. So Rabbi says, really, there is building by Caleb. The yesh steer became, there is detaching by Caleb. So why are you allowed to go ahead and remove it? The shenitlu kamar. It means if it was taken off, if it was already taken off, you can't put it back on. So Rava says no. I have two issues with why your tears. First of all, the nitlan katani. That which it says over there, it says the Shalmida says you're allowed to go ahead and take it off. You're allowed to go ahead and remove it. Don't change what it says. It says you're allowed to remove it, right? We said nitlan aval loy machzir. And furthermore, my aval loy machzir. What does it mean? But you can't return and put it back, right? If it fell off by itself, what does it mean? But you can't put it back. You didn't take it off in the first place, right? Elamai, it must be that which you said you're allowed to take it off. So, okay, so back to the drawing board. If you're allowed to take it off, why can't you put it back in? Really, there is no building mekalim. You can't build it, and there's no problem of breaking it down, of deconstructing it, and there's no problem, there's no problem demolishing it, and there's no problem of building it. All right. So the question is, the gzeira shemitaka, and the gzeira is that perhaps if you're allowed to detach, there's no malacha there. But if you're going to go ahead and attach it, normally attaching is no problem. But if you go ahead and you stick it in, and you put it in, perhaps you're going to go ahead and put it in permanently, that might be a malacha of baina. So therefore, since you might come ahead and shema, in order you might come to the yitaka, therefore we want to avoid that and avoid you doing like a permanent building. And then we said, fine, two dots. Naitel adam kornas. We said a person can go ahead and take a hammer and use it for nuts. And Amar Rav Yehuda kornas shel agayzin litzobas agayzin. Go ahead and take a nut hammer, right? A nutcracker, and use it to go ahead and crack the nuts. Aval shel nefachim lo. But you can't go ahead and use the hammer of a blacksmith. Okay. So why? So ksaver davar shel malachta liyaser afilu tzarech gufo aser. It must be, right, that's something which is a davar shemalachta liyaser, right? Let's explain this word, right? Something which is davar shemalachta liyaser, something whose usage is normally aser. So a blacksmith hammer is normally used for, to go ahead and smash things out and to make kalim, right? You can't do that on Shabbos. That's called a kli shemalachta liyaser, right? So davar shemalachta liyaser, afilu tzarech gufo, even if we're going to use it, right, for itself. In other words, even if we're going to use it for a permitted purpose, is aser. So Amalei Rabba, so Elamiyata, Sefer, what are the Sefer? It says, Diktani, Vesa Rachas, Vesa Malzeg, Vases Love, the cotton. Right, you can go ahead and basically take a pitchfork or something that you use to winnow. You can use that to take food for a cotton. So Rasach Malzeg, Mimi Chayli, the cotton. Is there such thing as a pitchfork for use for kids' food? No such thing. So Rabba says Rabba, a corner shop and a fechin livtzobas agoizin. Rather, we must be saying that even a regular hammer, just like a regular pitchfork, a regular hammer which is used by a blacksmith, is mutter to go ahead and use it to crack open nuts. So therefore, our Mishnah holds that what a davar shemalachta liyisr l'tzarach gufo mutter, right? And it's something which is normally used for isser, such as using it for the purpose of a blacksmith making, finishing up kalim, can be used for a mutter type of usage, such as cracking open nuts, because we're allowed to eat nuts on Shabbos, and therefore that's what our Mishnah holds. And we'll continue with this on Tuesday, Mirz Hashem. And everyone have a wonderful day and stay safe and enjoy this hot day. Be well.